Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Jeff Freitas, and I'm the president of CFT. I'd like to welcome you all back to our weekly Upfront broadcast. As we begin the Martin Luther King weekend, as we begin the Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, we have much to report during this broadcast since so much has occurred over the last week before we honor the great man whose birthday is on Monday. Let's start with national news. Last week, there was a coordinated insurrection of our national Capitol building that tried to stop the formal process to approve the electoral votes cast for President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. The CFT and the AFT have called for the immediate removal of Donald Trump from office due to an act of sedition. This insurrection was not only an attempt to stop our democratic process to elect our leaders of this country, but it was also a violent attack on our government, resulting in multiple deaths, including a police officer who was beaten by the insurrectionists. We are heartened this week when the U.S. House voted to impeach President Trump for his incitement of the mob. And we were glad to see that it was a bipartisan action with 10 Republican Congress members voting aye. For those who continue to refuse to address this attack and have sworn the oath of office, and especially those lawmakers who added to their actions with their own speeches and encouragements, they should remember that they have sworn to uphold the Constitution and protect this country against foreign and domestic threats. In fact, some have called on not impeaching the president, instead calling for unity. While to truly move on from this shameful period and ultimately to find unity, we should make sure that this could never happen again. And that is first by removing the ability of Trump to ever run for office ever again. And the Senate can do that. The impeachment for a second time has now been remitted to the U.S. Senate. And we believe that the U.S. Senate must immediately begin an impeachment trial without delay. And there is more than enough evidence to convict him and bar him from ever holding federal office again. But regardless of the current Senate leader, Mitch McConnell regardless what he does, thankfully, the Trump presidency is just days from ending with the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris taking place next week on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, to be exact. Speaking of the hopeful news of the 2021 inauguration, AFT will be hosting a live streamed watch party hosted by Randy Weingarten. It will begin at 8 a.m. Pacific, speaking to the CFT members, and we will share the links to join on our Facebook and other social media pages. We are eager to begin our work with the Biden administration with both the House and the democratically controlled Senate. First up is a COVID relief package. And yesterday, President-elect Joe Biden announced a crucial plan for the next round of stimulus. We should all get behind this plan, which focuses on helping families and small businesses get through the pandemic until vaccines are widely distributed. It also supports education and getting our students a better education as we move forward and through this COVID pandemic. Highlights of the plan include direct payments of $1,400 to most Americans, bringing that total relief to $2,000, which the Democrats were fighting for before the last package passed. Increasing the federal unemployment benefit by $400 a week and extending it through the end of September. Extending the eviction and foreclosure moratoriums until the end of September. $350 billion in state and local government aid, and $170 billion for K-12 schools and institutions of higher education. And there's much more. So please keep an eye out for opportunities to help move this package through the Congress and getting it signed by our next president, Joe Biden. While specifically back here in California, this week the CFT called for a 4-week halt to all in-person K-12 instruction in the state in order to preserve the life and slow the community spread of the virus. This is necessary as California's COVID-19 case rates and COVID-19 death rates have reached record high levels. ICUs are at or near 0% capacity in most parts of the states, and ambulance wait hours to deliver patients to emergency rooms. I know that CFT members are eager to safely return to our schools and have been for many, many months now. We did not sign up for our jobs with the intention of teaching through screens or helping students by working on campuses away from those campuses. However, we should not put our own lives, the lives of our students, and our communities at risk during what is clearly an escalating crisis during this pandemic in our state. To protect lives and move toward in-person instruction as soon as safely allows, the CFT Executive Council voted last weekend to urge all school staff and educators to take the COVID-19 vaccine when it is made available. That is all school workers. In that same resolution, we are also on record that vaccinating educators and school staff is an essential component of safely reopening schools for in-person instruction, along with continuing other critical safety measures like social distancing, testing and tracing, PPE, and proper ventilation. We know that some CFT members in rural parts of the state have started getting their vaccine shots this week. Congratulations. Unfortunately, it looks like the rollout of the vaccine is happening much more slowly than we had hoped. While the new Biden administration will bring competence and urgency from the national level to distributing the vaccine, it is likely to be weeks before their efforts start having a meaningful impact here in California. To learn more specifically about the vaccines that are out there, AFT with other international unions have already had 2 town halls describing the research, the safety, the production of the vaccine, and answering many questions. You can go to AFT's Facebook page and or their YouTube channel to watch these town halls. They're available now. I highly recommend watching both of them. I have. Also in California this week, Governor Newsom's administration released formal safety guidance and directives for his Safe Schools for All reopening plan. In short, this new guidance offers improvements in terms of laying out what is required for schools to safely open for in-person instruction, and they must have a plan before proceeding. This includes a safety checklist for schools, testing and contact tracing, and better definitions on what they mean. The guidance now also incorporates Cal OSHA's guidance from November, with specific school-related guidance. The guidance document also formally requires school districts to consult with their local unions on their safety plans if they are attempting to have in-person instruction while their county is in the purple or lower levels. And finally, the governor's office has now capped the threshold under which elementary schools may be allowed to be in person while in the purple tier, previously through waivers, and that cap is at 25 cases per 100,000 adjusted COVID rates. All of this and more are in the guidances that were distributed or released yesterday by the governor's administration. Unfortunately, the overall plan for in-person instruction does not incorporate vaccines for school workers. But to reiterate, all school workers are in the first tier of the 1B group for vaccinations, and we support and encourage our members to getting that vaccine. Well, that is all the reports for today. So I'm going to close out this week's CFT update broadcast by taking a moment to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Decades after his assassination, he continues to inspire us. Monday is actually Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, a day we remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his peaceful acts of civil disobedience to change laws that suppress and oppress. A day we continue to demand equity and justice. A day where we recommit our efforts and his goals of an equal and just society. Especially marked during these dark times, and especially last week after insurrectionists carrying the Southern banners into the Capitol, I am reminded of a quote of Dr. Martin Luther King's. I quote, Out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. And that's why the Martin Luther King Monument is built out of stone. Now more than ever, these words ring true, and the events of this past year have shown just how far our country still has to go in order to fulfill the promise of racial justice and equity. CFT continues to be committed to upholding his legacy and to engaging in a committed and ongoing way to this fight. And we invite all of you to join us as we make our union, our state, and our country a more free and fair place for all. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your commitment to fairness, equity, and justice. And thank you for being a part of AFT and CFT. Have a safe weekend and take care.